My name is Erin, and I am 24 years old. I work as a junior accountant at a firm downtown, living in my own apartment for the past 2 years. I still had some childhood belongings stored at my parents' house until last week. After finishing a grueling audit at 3 in the morning, I checked my phone to find several missed calls and texts from my father. The messages changed everything. If you're watching this, let me know where you're from in the comments, and hit subscribe to see how I turned my family's ultimate betrayal into the accountability lesson they never expected. I grew up in a middle-class suburban home in Pennsylvania with my parents and older brother Jake. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family, but behind closed doors, things were different. My father worked as a bank manager and ruled our household with the same strict control he maintained at work. He was a perfectionist who believed in maintaining appearances above all else, and his word was absolute law in our home. My mother was the classic people pleaser. She avoided conflict at all costs and enabled my father's controlling behavior. Whenever he made unreasonable demands or harsh judgments, she would pull me aside later and whisper, "Just do what your father asks, Erin. It is easier that way." As I grew older, I realized she was trapped in the same cycle of appeasement I was trying to escape. Then there was my brother Jake, 4 years older than me and the undisputed golden child. Jake could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, even when he clearly messed up. When he crashed my father's car at 16, it was because the other driver was in his blind spot. When he failed classes in college, it was because the professors had it out for him. Jake learned early that he would never face consequences for his actions, and this shaped him into the entitled adult he became. About 5 years ago, Jake got his girlfriend Tara pregnant. They moved in together and had my niece Lily. I adore that little girl, but both Jake and Tara showed the same irresponsible approach to parenting that they did to everything else. They would often drop Lily off with my parents without notice, spend money on themselves rather than necessities for her, and act offended when anyone suggested they needed to be more responsible. Throughout all this family dysfunction, I tried to forge my own path. I worked hard in school, knowing education was my ticket to independence. My academic achievements rarely got the same praise as Jake's mediocre efforts, but I persisted. While my father paid for Jake's college education despite his poor grades, I was told I needed to learn financial responsibility and take out student loans. I worked 3 part-time jobs during college morning shifts at a coffee shop, weekend receptionist at a salon, and online tutoring at night. I would study between customers during breaks and late into the night after my shifts. Despite the exhaustion, I graduated with an accounting degree and a 3.9 GPA. Not that my accomplishment received much acknowledgement at my family dinner. My father simply said, "Well, now you can start paying back those loans." Finding my first real accounting job was a moment of pure joy. The entry-level salary wasn't much, but it was steady income that allowed me to start saving for my own place. 2 years ago, I finally had enough for the security deposit on a small one-bedroom apartment about 30 minutes from my parents' house. The day I moved out, my mother cried, but my father just said, "About time you stopped freeloading." Since moving out, I maintained what I would call a civil but distant relationship with my family. I would visit for occasional Sunday dinners and major holidays, call my mother once a week, and send birthday and Christmas gifts. I left some of my childhood belongings in my old room, things that had sentimental value but wouldn't fit in my small apartment. Yearbooks, award certificates, my first teddy bear photo albums, and some handmade quilts from my grandmother. At family gatherings, a predictable pattern emerged. Jake and Tara would show up late, usually with some crisis they needed help with. Car repairs, overdue rent, daycare costs, you name it. My parents would immediately offer financial assistance, emptying their wallets without question. Then Jake would turn to me with that entitled smile and ask, "So, little sis, how about helping out your brother?" I would politely decline, saying I was still paying off student loans and building my emergency fund. This always led to the same conversation, my parents telling me family should help family. Jake calling me selfish and me trying to explain the concept of financial boundaries. My father would inevitably say something like, "Your brother has a family to support. What do you have? Just yourself. How selfish can you be?" These interactions left me feeling angry and invalidated, but I stood my ground. As these patterns repeated, I began establishing firmer boundaries. I started declining more family dinners, citing work commitments. I muted the family group chat to avoid the constant drama. I focused on building my own support network of friends and colleagues who respected me and my choices. At work, things were looking up. My supervisor, Sarah, recognized my dedication and attention to detail. I was assigned to increasingly important clients and eventually promoted to handle some of our firm's significant accounts. The promotion came with longer hours, especially during tax season and end-of-year audits, but also with better pay and more responsibility. For the first time, I felt valued for my contributions. My small circle of close friends became the family I chose. My college roommate Rachel, who now worked as a teacher, my neighbor Marcus, a graphic designer with his own similar family story, and Megan, a paralegal. I met at a professional networking event, formed my core support group. We celebrated each other's victories, supported each other through challenges, and never questioned each other's worth. The distance I created from my biological family gave me space to reflect on our unhealthy dynamics. I realized my father's controlling behavior wasn't normal, my mother's enabling wasn't helpful, and Jake's entitlement wasn't just annoying, it was destructive. I was determined to break these patterns in my own life, even if they couldn't see the problems. Little did I know that my family's toxic behaviors were about to escalate beyond anything I could have imagined, testing the boundaries I had worked so hard to establish, and forcing me to make the hardest decision of my life. The week leading up to the incident was particularly intense at work. Our firm had landed a major new client, a regional hospital network with complex financial structures and stringent compliance requirements. Sarah had trusted me to lead the initial audit, a vote of confidence that both thrilled and terrified me. For 5 days straight, I worked 14-hour days alongside our audit team. We pored over thousands of transactions, cross-referenced regulatory requirements, and built comprehensive financial models. The pressure was immense, knowing that this client could mean millions in revenue for our firm if we impressed them. By Thursday night, we were approaching the finish line. I had been at the office since 7 in the morning, surviving on vending machine snacks and the increasingly stale coffee from the break room. My eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets, and my back ached from hunching over my laptop. At 11:30, Sarah stopped by my desk. "Erin, you look like you're about to collapse. How much longer until you finish the reconciliation report?" "Maybe 3 more hours," I replied, rubbing my eyes. "The subsidiary accounts have some inconsistencies I need to resolve before we can finalize." Sarah nodded appreciatively. "That's why I put you on this. Your attention to detail is unmatched. Listen, wrap this up, then take tomorrow off. You have earned it." By 2:45 in the morning, I had finally finished. The audit report was complete, all inconsistencies resolved, and our presentation for the client was ready. The office was nearly empty, just me and 2 other dedicated team members putting the final touches on our sections. We decided to celebrate our accomplishment with an impromptu late-night dinner at the 24-hour diner across the street. Over plates of greasy comfort food, we toasted our success with coffee mugs and shared our weekend plans. "I am going to sleep for 14 hours straight," said Tom, our tax specialist. "My husband is taking me to that new spa resort upstate," added Lindsay from compliance. "How about you, Erin?" they asked. I shrugged. "Honestly, just catch up on laundry and maybe binge-watch that new mystery series everyone is talking about." It was close to 3:30 when I finally got to my car. Before starting the engine, I decided to check my phone, which I had silenced during the final push to complete the audit. The screen lit up with notifications, 7 missed calls from my father, 3 from my mother, and a series of text messages that made my blood run cold. The first text time-stamped 11:17 p.m. "Call me immediately. Family emergency." The second at 11:42 p.m. "Your irresponsibility continues to disappoint this family. Pick up your phone." At 12:30 a.m. "We have made an executive decision about your room. Lily needs a proper playroom. We are clearing it out tomorrow." The message that arrived at 2:17 a.m. hit me like a physical blow. "We tore your room apart. Your niece needs a playroom. You're 24, not some pathetic freeloader. Time to grow the hell up." And finally, at 3:03 a.m., just minutes before I checked my phone, "We signed you as co-signer on your brother's $18,000 loan. It is done. Do not screw his life like you did yours." My hands began to shake so badly I dropped my phone between the seats. Fumbling to retrieve it, I felt panic rising in my chest. They had destroyed my childhood room without warning. Bad enough, but signing me as a co-signer on a loan? That was identity theft. That was fraud. Frantically, I searched online for information about co-signing without consent. Every legal website confirmed what I already suspected: forging someone's signature on a loan document was a federal crime. My own parents had committed fraud against me. With trembling fingers, I called Megan, knowing her legal background might help. Despite the hour, she answered on the third ring, her voice thick with sleep. "Erin, is everything okay?" "No," I managed to choke out before breaking down into tears. I read her the text messages. "Oh my God," she said, now fully awake. "That is identity theft. That is serious. Where are you now?" "Still at the office parking lot." "Do not go to your parents' house alone. Come to my place. We need to figure this out." But I knew I needed to see the damage with my own eyes. "I have to go there, Megan. My childhood photos, my grandmother's quilt, my journals, they might all be gone." Megan sighed. "If you must go, call me when you get there and keep me on the phone the entire time. If anything feels unsafe, leave immediately. Promise me." I promised, then sat in my car trying to calm my racing heart. The panic attack hit in waves. First tightness in my chest, then difficulty breathing. Finally, the sensation of the world closing in around me. I focused on my breathing techniques, counting slowly until the worst passed. The drive to my parents' suburban home took 40 minutes. It was now past 4 in the morning, the streets deserted, my headlights cutting through pre-dawn darkness. I rehearsed what I would say, how I would remain calm, how I would document everything. I parked a block away to avoid alerting them to my presence. The house was dark except for the dim porch light they always left on overnight. I used my key to enter silently, holding my breath as the front door creaked slightly. The house smelled the same, that familiar mixture of my mother's potpourri and the lemon polish she used on the furniture. I moved through the darkened living room, past the kitchen where countless tense family dinners had taken place, and up the stairs to the second floor. The door to my childhood bedroom stood open. When I flicked on the light, my heart sank. The room was unrecognizable. My bed was gone, replaced by a gaudy pink play kitchen and dollhouse. My bookshelves had been emptied, the books I had loved and saved nowhere to be seen. The desk where I had studied for countless hours had been replaced by a child-sized craft table. Worst of all, the closet door stood open, revealing empty shelves where my memory boxes had been stored. I moved forward in a daze, checking every corner of the room. Some of my belongings had been hastily packed into garbage bags piled in the corner. Others appeared to be simply gone. I opened one of the bags to find my books thrown in haphazardly, many with bent pages and damaged covers. Another contained clothes I had left behind, now wrinkled and smelling of the garage where they had clearly been temporarily stored. A third bag held a jumble of mementos, photo frames with cracked glass certificates crumpled beyond repair. My grandmother's handmade quilt, the one she had spent her final months creating for me before cancer took her, was nowhere to be found. The journals where I had poured my teenage heart out, the photos documenting my growth from awkward child to young adult, all seemed to have vanished. In my parents' home office, I found what I was looking for: my father's organizational habits, making my detective work easy. In a folder marked Jake Loan, I discovered the loan documents. There was my signature, a poor imitation that nevertheless might pass a cursory examination. The loan was from my father's own bank, explaining how he had managed to push it through without proper verification. I took photos of everything with my phone, documenting the destruction of my room, the damaged belongings, and most importantly, the fraudulent loan documents. Evidence in hand, I slipped out of the house as quietly as I had entered, the first rays of dawn just beginning to lighten the sky. In my car, I called Megan again. "I need somewhere to stay," I said, my voice hollow, "and I need legal help." Back at Megan's apartment with a cup of strong tea in my shaking hands, I began the process of understanding just how deep my family's betrayal went. Megan, still in her pajamas, but fully alert, helped me access my credit report online. "We need to see if this loan is the only thing they have done," she explained, her paralegal training kicking in. "Identity theft often follows patterns, especially within families." What we discovered left me breathless. The $18,000 loan was just the tip of the iceberg. There were 2 credit cards opened in my name that I had never applied for, both maxed out at their $5,000 limits. An auto loan for $12,000 from 3 years ago, around the time Jake's car mysteriously got upgraded. Utility accounts for what I recognized as Jake and Tara's address, all in my name. "Erin, this is not a one-time thing," Megan said gently. "This appears to be systematic financial abuse dating back years." I stared at the screen in disbelief. How did I not know? How did I not get notifications about any of this? "They probably used their address for all communications," Megan explained. "And if they had access to your personal information, they could have even changed your contact details with the credit bureaus." A cold realization washed over me. My father works at a bank. He knows exactly how to do all of this without raising flags. I remembered how my father had insisted on helping me file my first tax returns, how he had offered to organize my financial documents when I moved out, always under the guise of parental support. He had been gathering the information he needed to exploit my credit for years. With Megan's encouragement, I called another friend, Jordan, who worked as an attorney specializing in financial crimes. Despite the early hour, he agreed to meet us for breakfast to discuss my options. His advice was clear and sobering. "You have 2 paths here," Jordan explained over coffee at a quiet corner table. "You can report this as fraud, which it absolutely is, and potentially see your family face serious legal consequences. Or you can accept the debt as your own and try to work out a repayment plan with your family." "What happens if I report it?" I asked. "The bank will investigate. Your father could lose his job, especially since he works in banking and should know better. There could be criminal charges for identity theft against both your parents if they were involved. Your credit would be cleared of the fraudulent accounts, but the family fallout would be significant." I pushed my untouched breakfast aside, my appetite gone. "And if I just accept it?" Jordan shook his head. "You would be taking on nearly $40,000 of debt you did not consent to. Your credit is already damaged. It would take years to pay off, affecting your ability to get your own loans, rent apartments, maybe even some job opportunities. And worst of all, they would know they could get away with it. There would be nothing preventing them from doing it again." As I sat there weighing impossible options, my phone buzzed with a text from my brother Jake. "Dad told me what happened. You need to chill out. It is just a loan and you are family. You owe us this after everything we have done for you." Something snapped inside me. The last threads of family obligation I had been desperately clinging to finally broke. I showed the message to Jordan and Megan. "I need to understand everything they have done," I said firmly. "Every account, every dollar, every lie, every—" Over the next 2 days, I became a financial detective in my own life. I requested detailed credit reports, contacted banks and lenders, recovered old mail from my parents' house while they were at work, and even spoke to the loan officer who had processed Jake's loan, pretending I wanted to review the terms. The picture that emerged was worse than I had initially feared. My parents had been using my information since I was 18, opening accounts, taking loans, even filing insurance claims using my identity. The total financial damage exceeded $35,000, not including the potential impact on my credit score and financial future. Most disturbing was a conversation with Jake I managed to record on my phone. I met him at a coffee shop, ostensibly to work things out. His casual attitude about the whole situation revealed just how normalized this behavior had become in my family. "Come on, Erin, do not be so dramatic," he said, stirring sugar into his latte. "Dad has been managing all our finances forever. He moved some money around, used some different names on paperwork. It is just how he keeps the family afloat." "Jake, it is identity theft," I insisted. "It is a crime." He rolled his eyes. "It is only a crime if someone reports it. We are family. We look out for each other. Maybe if you were not so selfish and actually contributed, Dad would not have had to get creative with the finances." "Did you know they forged my signature?" "I might have seen Dad practicing your signature once or twice," he admitted with a shrug. "But seriously, what is the big deal? The loan is for Lily's future. Do you really want to deny your niece a better life because you are hung up on some technical legality?" His dismissive attitude and emotional manipulation tactics were the final confirmation I needed. This was not a mistake or a one-time poor decision. This was a pattern of exploitation by the people who should have protected me. Back at Megan's apartment, which had become my temporary safe haven, I faced the hardest decision of my life. Family loyalty had been ingrained in me from childhood. The expectation that we protect each other, keep secrets present a united front to the world. But what happens when your family is what you need protection from? I spent a sleepless night weighing options, calculating costs, imagining futures. By morning, I had made my decision. I would protect myself even if it meant severing family ties. It was time to compile the evidence and prepare for the aftermath. The next week was a blur of methodical preparation. I approached the situation like the accountant. I was creating spreadsheets, gathering documentation, building an airtight case. First, I visited my bank and opened entirely new accounts at a different institution, transferring every penny from my existing accounts. Next, I met with officials at 3 different credit agencies, documenting each instance of fraud and placing freezes on my credit. The representative at one agency gave me a sympathetic look. "Unfortunately, we see this kind of thing more often than you would think," she told me. "Family financial abuse is common, but underreported because of the emotional complications." I contacted my employer's HR department, explaining that I was dealing with an identity theft situation and might need flexibility for legal appointments in the coming weeks. My boss, Sarah, was unexpectedly supportive. "Family issues can be the hardest," she said. "Take whatever time you need to get this sorted out. Your job will be waiting." I spent an entire day at the police station filing reports and understanding the process for pressing charges. The detective handling my case explained that prosecuting family members for identity theft was complex but possible. "Most victims ultimately decide not to press charges against family," he said. "But filing a police report is essential for clearing your credit, regardless of whether you pursue criminal proceedings." Meanwhile, I secured a new apartment across town, paid 6 months' rent in advance from my emergency savings, and arranged for secure delivery of all my mail. I changed my phone number, created new email accounts, and locked down all my social media with enhanced privacy settings. The most challenging task was preparing the flash drive. I wanted the evidence to be undeniable, but also understandable. I organized everything into clearly labeled folders: loan documents, credit card, fraud, utility accounts, timeline of events, financial impact statement, and voice recordings. In the voice recordings folder, I included not only my conversation with Jake, but also a final message from me explaining my decision and saying goodbye. I recorded it late one night in Megan's quiet guest room, trying several times before I could get through it without my voice breaking. "To my family," I began. "By now you have seen the evidence of what you have done. For years you have stolen my identity, damaged my credit, and betrayed my trust. When confronted, you justified your actions as being for the good of the family while dismissing the harm done to me as unimportant. This stops today. I have filed police reports, contacted credit agencies, and documented every instance of fraud. I am prepared to press charges if necessary, though I hope it will not come to that. I want no further contact from any of you. I have changed my number, moved, and taken every step to protect myself from further exploitation." The saddest part is that I would have helped if you had simply asked, been honest about your financial struggles, and respected my right to choose. Instead, you took that choice from me along with my security and my trust. Mom, Dad, Jake, I am not doing this out of vengeance. I am doing this for my own protection and to break a cycle of financial abuse that you seem unable to recognize as wrong. Perhaps someday you will understand. Until then, this is goodbye. My final night in my old apartment was surreal. I had sold or donated most of my furniture, keeping only personal items, clothes, and essential kitchenware. The empty rooms echoed as I walked through them one last time, running my fingers along walls that had witnessed my first taste of independence. I slept on a camping mattress on the floor, surrounded by neatly packed boxes labeled for my new life. Despite the stress and heartache, I felt an unexpected sense of peace. For the first time, I was completely taking control of my life, cutting away the toxic roots that had been holding me back. Before dawn, I loaded my small car with the essentials and drove to my parents' suburban home. It was 5:30 in the morning, the street quiet, most neighbors still asleep. I parked a short distance away and waited, watching the dark house for any signs of activity. When I was certain no one was awake, I approached silently. The flash drive felt heavy in my pocket, weighted with the evidence of years of betrayal and my decision to break free. I stood at the front door for a long moment, remembering childhood Christmases, teenage arguments the day I left for college, all the history contained within those walls. With a steady hand, I slipped the flash drive through the mail slot. It made a soft clicking sound as it hit the floor inside. No note accompanied it, no dramatic confrontation, just the silent transfer of truth from my hands to theirs. I returned to my car without looking back, driving toward my new apartment, my new beginning. The sunrise painted the sky in shades of pink and gold as I merged onto the highway, symbolic timing that wasn't lost on me. One chapter ending, another beginning with the new day. That first night in my new apartment was both lonely and liberating. The space was smaller but entirely mine, free from the shadows of family expectations and obligations. I arranged my remaining possessions, hung a few pictures, and ordered takeout from a nearby restaurant I had never tried before. Sitting on the floor with my dinner, I allowed myself to feel the complex emotions I had been suppressing: grief for the family relationships I had lost, anger at their betrayal, fear about the uncertain future, but also pride in my courage and hope for the life I was reclaiming. I slept soundly that night, exhausted but unburdened, ready to face whatever came next. The next morning, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, fearing my family had somehow found my new number already. Cautiously, I picked up. "Is this Erin?" asked an unfamiliar female voice. "Who is asking?" I responded carefully. "This is Amanda, your parents' neighbor. I got your number from the emergency contact list for the neighborhood watch. There is something happening at your parents' house. It is pretty bad." My heart raced. "What do you mean?" "Well," Amanda said, her voice dropping to a gossipy whisper, "your dad is outside in his boxers screaming for someone to help him. Your mom is barefoot on the driveway crying. They are causing quite a scene. Police just showed up. I thought you should know." So they had found the flash drive. They had seen the evidence. The carefully constructed facade of their perfect family was crumbling in front of the entire neighborhood. "Thank you for letting me know," I said neutrally, then ended the call. Within hours, the messages began pouring in. My father's angry voicemails to my old phone number, which I checked remotely. "How dare you accuse us of these lies after everything we have done for you, you ungrateful child." My mother's tearful texts. "Please come home, sweetheart. We can work this out as a family. Your father is not well. He needs you." Jake's threats. "You better drop this or I will make sure everyone knows what a selfish bitch you really are. You are ruining this family." I documented each contact attempt, but did not respond. My decision was made. The fallout spread quickly through my extended family. Aunt Patricia, my father's sister, left a scathing message accusing me of exaggerating to get attention. Uncle Robert suggested I needed psychological help for turning against my own blood. Cousin Stephanie asked if I had considered how this would affect Lily playing the child card just as my brother had. But there were surprising allies too. My mother's sister, Aunt Karen, reached out through Megan after finding her on social media. "I believe Erin," she told Megan to relay to me. "My sister has been under Richard's control for decades. The financial manipulation doesn't surprise me at all. Tell Erin I support her decision and I am here if she needs anything." My elderly grandfather, usually silent on family matters, somehow got my new email address and sent a brief but meaningful message. "Standing up for yourself takes courage. Proud of you, kiddo." These unexpected pockets of support strengthened my resolve during the difficult weeks that followed. The professional consequences for my father came swiftly. The bank placed him on administrative leave pending investigation into the fraudulent loan. His decades-long reputation in the community began to unravel as rumors spread about police visits to their home. My brother Jake, now without the $18,000 loan he had been counting on, faced increasing pressure from his gambling debts. I learned through Aunt Karen that debt collectors had begun calling their house at all hours, revealing the true purpose of the loan that was supposed to be for Lily's future. My mother, always the peacemaker, tried repeatedly to establish contact through mutual acquaintances. Each time, I politely but firmly declined, explaining that I needed space and time to heal. Meanwhile, I was adapting to my new life. The apartment in a different neighborhood meant new coffee shops to discover new routes to work, new faces passing by each day. I established new daily routines and security habits, checking my credit reports weekly and maintaining vigilance about my personal information. I found comfort in the mundane tasks of ordinary life: grocery shopping, laundry, preparing simple meals, cleaning my small but peaceful space. Each domestic act felt like reclaiming a piece of my independence. At work, I channeled my energy into my projects, earning praise from clients and recognition from management. The focus required for complex accounting problems provided a welcome distraction from personal turmoil, and my professional success gave me confidence that I was on the right path. My circle of supportive friends grew stronger. Megan, Jordan, and Rachel formed a protective barrier around me, vetting contact attempts from family members, accompanying me to legal appointments, and simply providing companionship on difficult days. 3 months after I dropped the flash drive through the mail slot, the bank completed its investigation. My father was terminated from his position. The police declined to press criminal charges due to insufficient evidence of intent common in family fraud cases, but the civil consequences were significant. The fraudulent accounts were removed from my credit report, and my father was ordered to pay restitution for the financial damage. For the first time since the break, I felt a weight lifting. The official acknowledgement of the wrong done to me validated my decision and helped quiet the doubts that sometimes crept in during lonely moments. I was not overreacting. I was not being selfish. I was protecting myself from real harm. As spring turned to summer, I began to feel the first genuine stirrings of freedom. Not just freedom from financial abuse, but freedom from the emotional manipulation that had shaped so much of my life. I was writing a new story for myself, one where my worth wasn't tied to family approval or sacrifice. 6 months after severing ties with my family, I barely recognized the person I had become in the best possible way. The constant anxiety that had been my companion for years had diminished significantly. I slept better, smiled more, and stood taller. My performance at work reflected this transformation. When a senior accountant position opened, Sarah encouraged me to apply despite my relatively short tenure at the firm. "Your work on the hospital network account was exceptional," she told me. "More importantly, I have watched you handle a personal crisis with remarkable professionalism and resilience. Those qualities are as valuable as technical skills." I got the promotion along with a substantial raise that allowed me to start rebuilding my savings after the financial hit of the move and legal expenses. My new role came with more responsibility, but also more creative freedom in developing financial strategies for our clients. Outside of work, I developed a new circle of friends who knew me only as I was now, not as the people pleaser I had been raised to be. Without the burden of family expectations, I discovered interests I had never explored before, joining a community garden, taking a creative writing class, and even trying rock climbing with my new neighbors. Therapy became an essential part of my healing journey. My therapist, Dr. Winters, specialized in family trauma and helped me understand the patterns that had shaped our family dynamics. "What you experienced is called financial abuse," she explained in one particularly illuminating session. "It's a form of control that often goes unrecognized because money matters are considered private in many families. But using someone's financial identity without consent is a violation of boundaries just as serious as other forms of abuse." Through our weekly sessions, I began to recognize how my father's controlling behavior had affected every aspect of our family life, how my mother's conflict avoidance had enabled it, and how Jake had been shaped by different but equally damaging expectations. "Breaking generational patterns takes tremendous courage," Dr. Winters told me. "By refusing to participate in the cycle, you've created the possibility for change, not just for yourself, but potentially for others in your family too." 4 months into our therapy work, I received an unexpected letter at my office address, one of the few contact points I hadn't changed. It was from my mother, handwritten on the stationery she had always saved for special occasions. "Dear Erin," she wrote, I am not writing to defend what was done to you or to ask for your forgiveness, which we have not yet earned. I am writing because I want you to know that your courage has forced me to face some difficult truths about our family and my role in enabling behaviors that hurt you deeply. Your father and I are now separated. The investigation at the bank, the neighborhood incident, and most importantly, the evidence you provided finally made me see what I have been ignoring for decades. I am staying with Karen for now and have begun therapy of my own. I respect your need for distance and will not attempt to contact you again unless you indicate you are open to communication. If that day never comes, please know that I am proud of the strong woman you have become, even though I failed to help you get there. With love and regret, Mom. The letter left me with conflicted emotions. Part of me wanted to maintain the clean break that had brought so much healing. Another part wondered if there was possibility for a new type of relationship with my mother, one based on honesty and respect rather than obligation and compliance. After discussing it thoroughly with Dr. Winters, I decided to respond with a short email to the address my mother had included, suggesting we meet at a neutral coffee shop halfway between our locations. The meeting was awkward at first, both of us unsure of the new boundaries. My mother looked older, the stress of recent months evident in the new lines around her eyes, but there was also a clarity in her gaze that I didn't remember seeing before. I want to know everything, I said after our initial pleasantries. The truth about what happened, why it happened, all of it. She nodded, then spent the next hour detailing the financial troubles my father had hidden for years, his gambling problem that mirrored Jake's, the mounting debts that threatened his carefully constructed image of success. None of this excuses what we did to you, she said firmly. I want to be clear about that. I am not justifying, only explaining. Your father convinced himself he was protecting the family by moving money around using different names on accounts. I convinced myself it wasn't my place to question his financial decisions. We were both wrong. She also shared updates about Jake, who was facing his own reckoning. After the loan fell through, his creditors had become more aggressive. One particularly frightening encounter had finally pushed him to acknowledge his gambling addiction and enter a treatment program. Your brother has a long way to go, my mother admitted. He still blames others for his problems, still expects bailouts, but at least he's getting professional help now. I maintained firm boundaries during this reconnection process. Our contact was limited to occasional coffee meetings in public places. I made it clear I would not discuss reconciling with my father, who still refused to take full responsibility for his actions, insisting he had acted out of family necessity. I did, however, agree to supervised visits with Lily, who was now 4 and innocent in all of this. We would meet at a park with my mother present, building a relationship that could survive the complicated adult dynamics surrounding her. As I rebuilt my financial life, I found myself drawn to helping others in similar situations. I volunteered with a local financial literacy program, teaching young adults about credit protection, identity theft prevention, and the importance of financial independence. Financial boundaries are just as important as emotional and physical ones. I would tell them, you can love your family without giving them access to your financial identity. I also joined an online support group for adult children from controlling families, finding solidarity in shared experiences and inspiration in stories of successful boundary setting. In this community, I didn't have to explain or justify my decisions. The challenging necessity of sometimes loving family from a distance was understood implicitly. The promotion at work led to new professional opportunities. I was invited to speak at accounting seminars, developed a reputation for integrity in an industry where it truly mattered, and eventually began mentoring junior staff members, passing on not just technical skills, but also lessons in professional boundaries and self-advocacy. About a year after the break, I met Michael at a charity event for financial education. A financial crimes investigator with his own complicated family history, he understood my story without judgment. Our relationship developed slowly, built on mutual respect and scrupulous honesty, a healing counterpoint to the deception that had marked my family relationships. What I admire most about you, Michael told me one evening, is not just that you stood up for yourself, but that you've transformed a painful experience into a source of strength and purpose. His observation made me realize how far I had come from that night when I discovered my family's betrayal. The journey had been painful, but it had led me to a life more authentic and fulfilling than I could have imagined while trapped in toxic family dynamics. As I approached the second anniversary of my decision, I found myself in a place of unexpected peace. The anger that had initially fueled my actions had transformed into something more sustainable, a quiet determination to live with integrity and to help others find their way to financial and emotional independence. 2 years after that life-changing 3 a.m. text message, I sat on the balcony of my new condo, watching the sunset and reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. The junior accountant who had once feared family disapproval now owned her home, held a senior position at a respected firm, and had built a life defined by her own values rather than others' expectations. The legal aspects of my family's fraud had been resolved. My credit had been restored, the fraudulent accounts removed from my record. My father, after losing his banking career, had been sentenced to probation and mandatory financial counseling, avoiding jail time largely due to his age and lack of prior offenses. He had also been ordered to pay restitution, which came in monthly checks that I donated directly to organizations supporting identity theft victims. Jake had completed a gambling addiction program and was, according to my occasional coffee meetings with my mother, working a steady job for the first time in his adult life. He had moved his family to a smaller apartment within their actual means and was slowly repaying his debts. We had no direct contact, but I had heard through my mother that the wake-up call of nearly facing his creditors alone had forced some genuine self-reflection. My mother continued her own journey of independence. After decades of deferring to my father's decisions, she had filed for divorce and moved into a small apartment of her own. She had found part-time work at a local library, opened her first solo bank account at 62 years old, and was learning to trust her own judgment. Our relationship remained careful, but was gradually rebuilding on a foundation of mutual respect rather than obligation. Lily, now 6 and starting school, had become the unexpected bridge between broken family bonds. My monthly visits with her provided a connection to my family that felt healthy rather than harmful. I took joy in being the aunt who encouraged her curiosity, listened to her elaborate stories, and modeled the independence I hoped she would develop as she grew. My promotion to senior accountant had exceeded my professional expectations. I specialized in helping nonprofits and small businesses create transparent, ethical financial systems, finding meaning in work that aligned with my personal values. My experience had given me a unique perspective on the importance of financial integrity that clients appreciated. The condo I had purchased represented more than just real estate. It was tangible proof of my reclaimed financial identity, a space entirely mine that no one could take away or enter without permission. I had decorated it thoughtfully, each item chosen to create a sanctuary of calm and security. My relationship with Michael had deepened into a partnership built on genuine trust. He understood my careful approach to sharing finances, respected my need for independence, and supported my ongoing healing journey. Together, we were learning that family can be chosen and created on terms that work for everyone involved. Perhaps the most meaningful development was my work with a support group for identity theft victims, particularly those exploited by family members. Once a month, I led meetings where people shared stories painfully similar to mine, offering them the understanding and validation I had once desperately needed. Financial abuse within families thrives in secrecy, I would tell new members. By speaking your truth, you have already taken the first step toward reclaiming your power. The group had grown steadily, eventually partnering with local law enforcement and financial institutions to provide resources for victims. We had even developed educational materials for high schools teaching young adults about financial boundaries before they faced potential exploitation. On the second anniversary of my break with my family, I received an email from my father, the first direct communication since that night. I opened it with trepidation, unsure what to expect. "Erin," he wrote, "for 2 years I have blamed you for the consequences of actions that were entirely my own. The loss of my career, my marriage, my reputation, all resulted from choices I made, violations of trust I committed against my own daughter. Through mandatory counseling and the humbling experience of rebuilding my life from scratch, I have finally begun to understand the harm I caused. I make no excuses and ask for nothing. I simply want to acknowledge the truth, perhaps the first truly honest communication between us in decades. You deserved better from your father. The message was signed simply with his name, no emotional manipulation, no request for forgiveness or reconnection. Just acknowledgement. Perhaps the beginning of accountability. I saved the email but did not respond, not yet certain what, if anything, I wanted to say in return. That evening, as I prepared for a small gathering of friends to celebrate my condo anniversary, I reflected on the lessons of the past 2 years. I had learned that sometimes love requires distance, that forgiveness does not necessitate reconciliation, that family can be both born and chosen, and that standing up for yourself is not selfish, but essential. The friends who arrived for dinner, Megan Jordan, Rachel Michael, and others who had supported my journey represented the chosen family. I had built relationships based on mutual respect and genuine care, rather than obligation or control. As we shared food and stories, laughter filling the home I had created for myself, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the crisis that had ultimately led to liberation. The text message that had once shattered my world had become the catalyst for building a better one. My story does not have a perfect ending. Some relationships remain broken, some wounds still tender. I continue to work through complex emotions in therapy, continue to maintain careful boundaries, continue to monitor my financial identity with vigilance. But my story does have a true ending, one where authenticity replaced pretense, where self-worth replaced self-sacrifice, where chosen connections replaced toxic obligations. In walking away from what was hurting me, I found my way to what could heal me. If you are watching this and seeing parallels to your own family situation, know that you deserve financial autonomy. You deserve relationships built on respect rather than exploitation. You deserve to define your own boundaries even when others try to label them as selfish or unreasonable. Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with family? Share your experience in the comments below. Remember to subscribe for more stories of finding strength in challenging situations, and hit that like button if this resonated with you. Thank you for listening to my journey from betrayal to freedom, and remember, sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most necessary growth.